Russia is building tourist sovereignty, and in a couple more months, they will start building another new resort on the Black Sea. But let's talk about everything in order. The growing popularity of domestic tourism in Russia goes beyond just recreation, entertainment, and even economic development. Domestic tourism requires its own convenient transportation, comfortable hotels, and quality services, and as a result, it turns out to be one of the conditions of Russia's state sovereignty. Only 10 years ago, the main and most desirable type of vacation for Russians was outbound tourism, primarily to Turkey, EU countries, and Southeast Asia. Now, the most popular is domestic tourism, traveling within Russia. This trend was identified even before the coronavirus pandemic and even before the start of the military operation. The beginning of the reorientation of Russian passengers from outbound to domestic tourism was noticed by Russian Railways back in 2015. After that, this trend was reported at the All-Russian Congress of Tour Operators. Today, domestic tourism in Russia is not just one of the most dynamically and effectively developing industries. In the summer of 2023, President Vladimir Putin said that domestic tourism is experiencing explosive growth. Interest in traveling in Russia is steadily growing, as is the industry's financial performance. The contribution of tourism to Russia's GDP at the end of last year amounted to 2.8%. In 2023, Russian residents will make 78 million domestic trips, up 21% from 2022. And in 2022, almost 15% more than a year earlier. The apparent growth will continue in 2024. According to the Government Coordination Center, 65% of Russians plan to spend their vacations traveling within Russia, and the share of such citizens is growing. In 2023, about 53% plan to travel around the country, and 38% the year before that. Domestic tourism is one of the fastest growing areas in the SME segment. In the first quarter of this year alone, sales of travel products grew by a third, tour operators' revenue by 40%, and hotels increased volumes by 20%. State support measures, such as the abolition of VAT for hotels and tour operators working in the field of domestic and inbound tourism, as well as the program of tourist cashback on Mir cards valid in 2012 to 2022, played their role in the success of the tourism industry. Inbound tourism is also recovering. After a sharp 3-year decline, primarily related to the pandemic, the industry showed growth for the first time. In 2023, according to the Border Service of the Federal Security Service of Russia, foreigners entered Russia for tourist purposes 670,000 times. Over the year, the flow of foreign tourists to our country increased by 3.5 times. Experts expect that the recovery of tourist flow from abroad will continue this summer. And if earlier tourists from Europe sought to Russia, now the focus has shifted to the Middle East, China, and Southeast Asia. At the same time, China is the leader in terms of arrivals. At the same time, the subject of tourist attraction for foreigners is sometimes the most unexpected things. For example, a lot of young Chinese families tend to travel to the Murmansk region in winter to observe the aurora borealis. According to Chinese belief, a child conceived under the northern lights will have exceptional intelligence and good luck. On the whole, the Russian tourism industry's potential is much higher than even the results it is showing now. For comparison, the contribution of tourism to GDP in Turkey in 2021 amounted to about 7%, Italy and Spain 8 to 9%, Australia, Canada, and India at the level of 5%. Russia can achieve similar indicators. President Vladimir Putin has set a corresponding task. Already in the horizon of the current decade, the contribution of domestic tourism to the country's GDP should grow twice, up to 5%. The head of state declared at a meeting on the development of the project of federal year-round resorts, 5 Seas, and Lake Baikal, held at the end of March. The number of trips within Russia should also grow to 140 million a year. The necessary conditions for the development of tourism. The head of state considers the development of transport infrastructure within and between regions, including air communication, modernization of the backbone network of highways, inland waterways, construction of new high-speed railways and highways. Also, a separate federal project should be implemented to produce domestic products for the tourism sector. In addition, the domestic tourism industry requires growth in the quality of services, development of the hotel room stock, increasing the availability of tourist products. The state pays such serious attention to supporting the tourism sector not only for economic reasons. Although it is an important industry for the economy, the development of which has a multiplier effect on many related spheres, from catering and beauty industry to the production of special equipment and the creation of promising IT solutions. Domestic tourism improves the quality of life, helps to form the all-Russian identity, and ensures cultural sovereignty. This is an economic and even political issue. We need people to be able to travel around our huge, beautiful, interesting country, to know it better, to understand it better. It educates a person. It fosters love for the motherland. The president spoke about the importance of tourism. Already today, the Russian market offers tourist services for every taste, and traditional beach vacations and excursion routes, sanatoriums, and camping. The most popular among Russians are trips to the sea. They are preferred by 52% of vacationers. Traditional leaders in this direction are health resorts in Krasnodar Krai and Crimea, but now resorts on the Caspian coast are successfully competing with them. In addition, new regions, such as the Donetsk People's Republic, are joining the fight for beach vacationers. The strategy of Azov Coast development is currently being worked out there. The region's leadership notes the significant interest in this area on the part of investors, both businesses and regions that provide patronage assistance to the DNR. Since the centenary of the large-scale skiing infrastructure near Sochi, real revolution has taken place in the winter vacation of Russians. The Krasnaya Polyana resorts not only turned the Krasnodar region into a year-round recreation center, they showed that a real skiing boom was possible in Russia. Hundreds of Russian ski slopes have replaced such formerly popular foreign winter vacation destinations as Austria and Italy. Water tourism, especially river tourism, is experiencing a similar boom. It was reported that in 2023, the popularity of cruises in Russia has increased 2.5 times, and already in February 2024, half of all river cruises for the upcoming summer were sold out. This is facilitated by the renewal of the Russian river fleet, including tourist fleet. The concept of the Great Volga Way has been developed, which should become a driver for the development of 24 Russian regions at once. Another popular tourism destination is visiting unique natural sites. Earlier this year, Lake Baikal became the most popular destination among Russian tourists. Surveys also show the rapidly growing popularity of Kamchatka. Lena Pillars, Putorana Plateau, and many other natural attractions of Siberia attract tourists. Most of them are located in specially protected natural areas. It is expected that by 2030, the relevant infrastructure will be created in all national parks of the country. Now this work is just starting. In addition to resort recreation and ecotourism is popular cognitive tourism, and here the choice is even more diverse. In addition to famous cities and tourist centers, tourists can visit many museums and ethnoparks related to regional culture and history. Examples include the Museum of Cobblestone, the Museum of Spoons, the Library of Jam, and the Museum of Baklushka, the Ethnopark of Windmills in the Kursk region, and the Peter the Great startup tourist route in Voronezh. Industrial tourism is gaining popularity. This is a very developed service in the world. The Japanese factory Toyota is visited by about 300,000 tourists annually. In Germany, Volkswagen enterprises are popular. In the US, Bind and Amp, Jerry's ice cream factory. In Russia, visiting industrial enterprises is only coming into fashion, although in the Soviet Union, excursions to factories and plants were practiced often and were designed to help teenagers decide on their future profession. Now industrial tourism solves a similar task, to show the attractiveness of labor in a particular industry, the level of manufacturability in the quality of production. Among the visited objects are metallurgical plants, coal mines, gold mining prisks, eco-farms, and even ice cream factories. This type of tourism also has a direct link to the country's economic sovereignty as it exposes Russians to domestic industry. The more we show how our industry works, the more people, young people, will be inspired by this area. More will come to work, realize new projects, and give a backward effect for the new model of economic growth, noted presidential aide Maxim Orshkin. Eno-tourism, also to some extent a type of industrial tourism, stands apart. Wineries in the Krasnodar region and Crimea, as well as cognac factories in Dagestan, are very popular. This type of vacation allows to combine gastronomic pleasures and cognitive process, to immerse in local culture and traditions, to learn a lot of new things not only about winemaking, but also about agriculture in general. The state intends to pay special attention to the development of automobile tourism. At the moment, it is the most popular way of moving around Russia. It is preferred by 51% of travelers. The government has recently approved the concept of automobile tourism development in Russia until 2035. It provides for the improvement of legislation and measures of state support, development of a network of auto tourist routes and infrastructure facilities. Such trips should be comfortable for people. This requires not only main highways, but also small roads to tourist sites with gas stations, mobile communications, equipment, parking lots, as well as hotels, said the head of the government Mikhail Mishustin. Putting the concept into practice is expected to almost double the number of tourist trips by car and bus by 2030. from 27 million to 47 million, and will increase the level of satisfaction of motorists with roads and services, although it's not bad enough as it is. 3.55 out of a possible 5 points. Despite the large-scale development, we can say that domestic tourism in Russia is only at the beginning of the road. Our nature is probably the best in the world. In Russia, you can find absolutely any landscape, any places. So noted Mishustin. And he also emphasized that one of the goals of domestic tourism is to help Russians, especially young people, to discover their country. And what else would you like to add? In a couple of months, a new resort will be built on the Black Sea. Frankly speaking, I do not have time to follow the new projects that are being realized in the southern tourist cluster. This cluster includes the territory of Kuban, North Caucasus, Azov, and Crimea. We have already told you about the most famous projects. This is a new Anapa, a new town on the Arabatska Arrow in Crimea, a new ski resort in Laganaki, Adygia, a bunch of different roads, the direct road Zubasochi, the Anapa bypass, the Krasnodar bypass, the Adler bypass, the Krasnodar Crimea highway, the ring road around the Azov Sea, and so on and so forth. Several pages could be written with examples. And here is another new project. We are talking about the Gerenjik Marina Sea Resort. The cost of the project is 100 billion rubles, about the same as the automobile part of the Crimean Bridge, and it will start to be realized in a few months, in the summer of 2004. The city of Gerenjik is easily distinguishable from any other city in Russia. Even on the image from space, it is built around a bay with a recognizable rounded shape. The two capes bisecting this bay are so-called Thick and Thin Cape. A single embankment 14 kilometers long is laid between the capes almost along the entire coast of the bay. By the way, it is a very beautiful embankment, walk along which you can devote a whole day or even two. Except that, as you can see from the map, there is no embankment in the area of the Thin Cape. There is almost nothing there at all. Wastes, a former cargo port, and a few residential houses. As you can see, the area is more like a small village. The strip on the right is an airport runway. In this part of the bay, and are going to build a sea resort in the style of marine marina. That is, parking lots for yachts and boats. Here is what is planned to be built. A new marine passenger terminal, that is, the resort, and in general in Gelendzhik will be able to get to the sea on sea transport. Recreational park of 37,000 square meters. It is like 5 soccer fields. Embankments along the bay, that is, the total length of the promenade in Gelendzhik will exceed 14 kilometers. Theater of water performances, it is not quite clear what it is. Children's entertainment center, hotels, stores, cafes. Actually, the marina itself parking lot for 300 small ships. The resort promises to be very green. More than 25% of the territory will be occupied by trees, flower beds, etc. I repeat, the project will begin to realize this summer, and to finish all the work is planned by 2027, i.e. Traditionally, we wish success to this project, as well as to those already completed from the Crimean Bridge and Tavrida to numerous Sochi facilities.